Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Financial Advisors Want to Know podcast. My name is Catherine Tindall. I'm with Dominion. We're a CPA firm that specializes in financial advisors. And on today's episode, I have a very special guest with me today, John Yanchek. He is a managing partner of Montis Financial. He has extensive experience in institutional finance, having worked at Goldman Sachs investment banking division in M&A and capital markets. And while at Goldman Sachs, his responsibilities included all sorts of advising for public and private companies, especially around the M&A and finance, corporate governance side of things. And he has, with a partner in Montis Financial, they've built a very amazing company in a short amount of time and have a big vision for what they're doing. And so I wanted to have him on the show to discuss his journey, the things he's learned, because he and his partner both come from an interesting background into the industry. And so I want to welcome you, John, for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Catherine. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So we met over LinkedIn, and I was very impressed with your backstory and just some of the progress you've been able to make with Montis Financial in a pretty short amount of time. For the listeners who are advisors here who are interested in getting to know you a little bit, could you give a little bit of background on kind of where you got started with Montis and just a little bit of the pre-story of how you got to where you are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share that. As I mentioned to you before, we do have a little bit of a unique story that I love to share. You did hit on my background a little bit in the investment banking and private equity world. My partner, Tucker Donna, who runs Montis with me, his background was more in the asset management side of the business, working at Putnam for his entire career after college before coming to Montis. And we really, after having a decade plus of experience in broader financial services, really wanted to leverage the skill sets that we built in different veins of financial services and investing and do something more entrepreneurial with the rest of our careers. We fell in love with the financial planning business model, but it was incredibly valuable service that it provided to its clients. And that's something that we thought we could add a lot of value to, taking a small planning practice and really creating a larger enterprise out of that practice. So we ended up partnering with Montis about 3 years ago. And Montis itself has a really storied history that we love sharing. It was originally founded in about 1994 under the name Delasair Financial Services by a woman named Christiane Delasair, who's still with us today in an advisor emeritus capacity. And she really built the business ground up by being an amazing practitioner and advisor, having an amazing service experience for clients, getting referrals like a lot of practices grow in that vein, and did that tremendously successfully over several decades. She brought on employees and partners along the way. And I think Tucker and I, not being advisors in the business, kind of brought a different vein and perspective to taking the business to the next level and really growing the solution set, the service set, and ultimately what I care about as a leader of this business is the opportunity set for the employees of the business as we continue to expand. So what's really cool is the business has had kind of the only financial planning presence and intentionality since the beginning of its history. And that's something we love about the business. We're excited to continue expanding upon and building upon as we look to grow this business.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's a really great story, because I think for a lot of the advisors that I deal with and work with, they start kind of as the founder of your firm did, where you're a technician, you're really focused on that client service delivery, you're really kind of the unit economics of what's going on in the business and making sure that's really tight in terms of that value to the clients, the relationships, the workflows, all of that. But then as the business progresses and grows, it changes, right? And the the skill set that's required, what got you here is not going to get you there, kind of a situation. So I'd love to hear kind of where the company was at when you got involved, and then what are some of the things that maybe you've noticed just now being more deep into this industry, of things that you see looking maybe at other practices or just the way the industry goes, of any mindset things that you've noticed along the way, now that you've been in for 3 years into this kind of service model, which is pretty different.
Totally. Everything you just said resonates deeply with me. There's a really great book, I don't know if you're familiar with or the listeners will be familiar with, called The E-Myth.
Oh yeah, so good.
The Myth. One of the premises of that book is what makes a really great practitioner doesn't necessarily translate, or is different, I should say, to a manager. And the classic example they give in the book is a person who makes pies, right? Makes great pies that you sell a few, they refer you out, you make a few more. You have to hire another person to keep up the demand of pies. And before long, you're actually managing people and buying oven space and just your factory space, et cetera. And you become a leader of people versus a pie baker. People make that transition successfully. Some people don't, but it really just shows, and the book details it greatly about just the mindset shift that is required from being an amazing practitioner and starting the business and really getting to the next level about people management, which is really what leadership entails.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something where, depending on what kind of temperament you have as an individual, like I've noticed this amongst, my clients that are running advisory practices, that temperament will drive a lot of that, like what got you to that, first $1 million revenue year is not going to be what gets you to the billion under management, right? Like you have to become a completely different, it's a completely different day. It's a completely different person. The amount of leveling up you have to do to be able to do that. If you're starting from just the technician standpoint, which I think it's wonderful that the founder for your firm is still involved in that emeritus role, because I do think that there's an element of having somebody who's seen the whole spectrum of everything brings a lot of insight, especially when you're looking at making sure that the unit economics of the client interactions work, and being able to have that perspective, in the boardroom is super important, so that you're not losing that unit economics on those relationships. But have there been things that you've noticed kind of in, being in this industry, maybe dealing with other firms or other firm owners who maybe don't have the perspective that you and your partner have in terms of, the broader institutional strategic experience? Because that's something I notice a lot, is that with a lot of the advisors, it can be something that they really struggle with. Have there been things that you've noticed kind of being in the industry that maybe surprised you, or that, some food for thought for people listening who maybe don't come from the background that you do in terms of that more strategic, financial experience?
Yeah, totally. And that's been a really interesting experience over the last 3 years, because not being an advisor by trade, I think, is both a pro and a con, right? Like most things, there's both double-edged sword. A pro is we really do look at things with very fresh eyes. We evaluate things about, okay, we've done it this way. Why is it done this way? And is it the best, the most efficient, the most effective way to do that? I think that's actually a really big benefit about what we bring to the table, is just looking at things with fresh eyes to really make sure we're doing it the right way, not just the legacy way. A con is we have to learn a lot of the nuances of the business that advisors know because they've grown up in the advisor business. And that's where relying on really deep expertise, people like Christian, like the team that we've been able to build that has decades of experience in the advisory practice. I think we've established a really powerful team that could think from so many, talk about diversity of perspective, think from so many different perspectives. And we have a very open and honest, radically candid culture to get to the best outcomes in a healthy way. So that's been a really amazing thing over the last 3 years. To piggyback on part of your question from before, so when Christian and her other partners built the practice, and we kind of took over, I think it was about $650 million of $100 million of assets. And over the last couple of years, we've been able to grow both organically and through partnerships to be about $1.1 billion of AUM today. And that really taught us a lot of lessons about, again, what you said before, what gets you from A to B, from what Christian built 0 to 650 was great. And it was just a very good service business, referral-based business. And then I think what's getting us from B to C and probably from C to D will be thinking about the business differently. I mean, one of the things I focus on very acutely every day, one of my missions is creating the best employee value proposition that we can at the firm. Because if we can bring on the best people by having the best employee value proposition, we're going to attract and retain the best people, therefore creating the best client value proposition and attracting and retaining the best clients. That's what's really near and dear to my heart, is about creating that opportunity for our employee base, because they're the ones who really are doing the day-to-day work for the clients. Creating the solutions, the high degree of what we call raving fan service. But So I think you have to start what we call an affinity match, defining various roles and functional responsibilities around the business, and find people that's their match. That's what empowers them. That's what energizes them. That's what they love doing, and they're naturally suited to do. And as we've continued to identify around the business what the gaps are to get from here to the next level, prioritizing the capital allocation around the business to solving those, it's been really powerful to bring on really amazing, impactful people, letting them be accountable and drive the business forward, and just kind of putting those pieces in place from a human capital perspective. Because at the end of the day, all businesses are human capital driven, particularly our business and the advisor business. So that's something we take very, very seriously, because then it's very critically important to building a successful business in our
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think what you're talking about of that progression is something that I see in these firms that I work with, where, they start off, especially in those small years, those sub 100 million years. It's all about just getting the unit economics of the client relationship right. But then once they get to the next level, it turns into, oh, I need to get the unit economics of what my employee relationships are, and the structure of them being empowered to do the work well, and them being I love that affinity matching, making sure that you have the right people in the right seats, and that it's, you've now moved another level up the chain. And then from there, a lot of them, what I see is then it goes up another level from the chain and say, okay, we're going to start buying out books of business. We're going to start acquiring, partial practices. And then how do we make sure that our quality standards are maintained, and those good relationships with the employees, and then underneath the good relationships with the clients are now maintained in these new acquisitions. And then that becomes the next level of challenges that the leadership has. And it's quite a progression. What are some of the things that are in your toolbox that you would, if you could just, what's in the toolbox that you think every advisor should have in terms of, maybe mindset pieces or functional pieces or things like that, that maybe as you've been in the industry now for a couple of years, realize hey, how's nobody heard of this book, or why isn't everybody doing this? Those kinds of, pieces of advice, if you have anything to share. Just a slight interruption in this conversation. I wanted to bring to your attention two things that are important for you to know. So we're always at the mercy of social media algorithms. So if you can subscribe to the show, that would mean a lot to me. Even more to me if you can leave a rating and let me know what you think about it. But we have a new newsletter that's coming out. It's going to be very active in 2025. That is specifically around tax issues that I'm seeing advisors face in their own practices, changes in legislations, and the pieces that I think are critically important for you to stay ahead of as an advisor with the new administration. So nearby, wherever you're interacting with this, will be the link of how to sign up for our newsletter. Also nearby will be the link to my LinkedIn, which is the best way to get in touch with me, learn more about what we're doing for advisors in the tax strategy and compliance work that we do, and also to get access to the various tools and interviews and things that I do, specifically designed to help you improve your practice, improve your own tax situation, etc. So let's get back to the episode, and thanks for tuning in.
Totally. And it's something we talked about before pressing record on this one. But one of the biggest and most impactful things in our business has been following the EOS, the entrepreneurial.
I'll have to flash mine too.
It's so impactful. And this goes beyond just the scope of RIAs. I mean, this has really caught fire in just the broader small business landscape. And like most businesses, it's about discipline as an operating system to get accountability in your business. It's all about doing the simple things that, just because they're simple doesn't mean they're easy, nor does it mean when you're in the day-to-day battles of putting out fires in your business, you can take a step back and really think about the right things to do for longer term traction and accountability. So I would say that's something we implemented very early on after Tucker and I took over leadership of the business. And that's probably been the single most impactful thing that we've done. I mean, some of the things they have you do, for those that are not familiar with the operating system, is up front, they have you do the simple things like setting the vision for the firm, setting the core values for the firm, really who you want to hold yourself out to, both internally and externally to the world. And those are really impactful things, because they can really unite and bring together and energize people that are bought into both of those things. And it just creates alignment, it creates efficiency, and it creates real impactful growth, and ultimately accountability. Which is the whole point of the book Traction. They have the fun little saying, vision without traction is hallucination. And
That's true.
it's very easy to have this grandiose vision. What's
Yeah.
really hard is to build the systems and processes to get accountability to actually create your vision in reality. And that's one of the beautiful things about EOS. That's been really, we've had firsthand experience. And I will say I'm probably one of the biggest marketers of EOS because it's been so amazing for us. I love telling other RAs about it. I love telling our clients, who a lot of them are business owners, about it. I mean, it's a really powerful system that I think a lot of people should be aware of that. So I tell everyone about it. We send out the books. I mean, it's been a really amazing thing to see the traction people have gotten for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. And we've had on the show, for people who are interested, maybe I'll post the link below. We've had an EOS implementer who specializes in RIAs and financial advisory practices on the show before, because I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of Traction and its and the EOS system, and because I'm very, on my personality temperament, I'm very interested in systems and data, and I want to see what's going on, and getting the qualitative data, not just the quantitative data of like, well, how are the clients enjoying this? Are they enjoying this? How is this working for the different staff in the firm? And it's a really great system for being able to really get eyes on all of that, because I think, something I've noticed is it's very easy to get tempted into specific tools in terms of like technology tools and things like that. But it doesn't really, those kinds of tools don't give you a comprehensive system of, okay, I can see now, like I can see what's going on, being able to implement those pieces together. So I love that that's a big part of it. In terms of, mindset pieces, because I think Traction is fantastic when it comes to the practical, okay, how are we actually running this thing, and how are we doing our meeting cadences, and what are our rocks, what are our goals, how are we driving towards them, how are we measuring it? But in terms of, I find for a lot of advisors that I talk to, they can get stuck in, and I know you meant like the E-Myth is an awesome book. They can get stuck in some of these kind of small mindsets about what their practice could be, and I think even beyond that, it's what their practice could be, but also like who they could be too. I find people can get stuck in thinking, oh, I'm just going to be I'm just going to be the firm at this size. And, once I get here, then I'm done, that kind of a thing. What have been some maybe interesting pieces that you found in your entrepreneurial journey that have kind of expanded, you have a unique background in the fact that you were involved with like Goldman Sachs and these, really big organizations to see what's possible. And I think a lot of people, if they just start on the purely technician client service side, it can be hard to realize everything that's really out there. But do you have any advice or, books or anything like that in terms of for advisors who are looking to expand their mindset and really get themselves to the next level?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, and I'll go a little back in my history, but growing up, I was a hockey player. I was a goalie. So I learned at a very early age, like mindset is perception is reality, and you can kind of create your own perception and in turn manifest your own reality. I do think that there are a lot of self-limiting beliefs that if you are aware of them and conscious of them, you can understand them and break through them. And I think there's a lot of great literature out there. I know you and I have discussed a few of Dan Sullivan's works, 10X is greater than 2X. There's another amazing book on a similar basis called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. I'm also big, this is less literature related, but I'm a big proponent of executive coaching. It's something I do weekly. I actually have a session right after this. And it's really about creating, understanding limitations in your mindset and trying to figure out ways to break through them. Because a lot is possible. And I think we're all we can achieve a lot more than we think. It's a lot easier to hit the more button, so to speak, and do 2% increases, 5% increases. But if you do the right things, and this is where like EOS can really help you think how to think differently and have a process around how to think differently. But by changing your mindset, you can actually achieve an incrementally amount more versus just by working a little harder and creating 2% growth versus thinking about a new way of approaching a problem and solving a problem that can create exponential growth and unlock that. So that's something that I actually heard a great quote recently that I love, and I wrote it on my whiteboard, that problems are your friend, problems equal opportunity. Because if you're facing problems, that means you have an opportunity to solve them and grow even more. So it's about your mindset. Problems could be a negative thing or problems can be a positive thing. They could be an opportunity. And shifting your mindset to creating problems equal opportunity is amazing, because then you learn to love problems. You learn to love problem solving. And once you solve those problems, you really break through to the localized ceiling to the next level. And it can create really great opportunity for yourself, your teammates, and your clients. So that's something, and EOS is a operating system that has a regular cadence of the way you approach problems, diagnose problems, and it really helps you, again, get the traction to unlocking that next level of thinking in our experience, which has been really impactful.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Something that I always like to, reframe when it comes to problems. I always think of it as like, well, this is just one big game, and I'm solving puzzles.
Yeah.
And it's, instead of it being like, oh, this is a wall, like I'm hitting a wall, it's like, oh no, I'm hitting a puzzle, and I like puzzles. Like I like to figure out puzzles. Like this will be fun, because then once we get past this one, then we'll get an even bigger puzzle. Like then it's the bigger level boss. And it's, I think reframing it in your own mind of, like you said, like, oh, this problem is an opportunity. Like this is between me and then and where I'm trying to go. And if I can just solve this, then we're into the next leg of things. And,
Totally.
I think your point with the really anchoring things in the traction system. And when you've got that vision and you've got those core values where you're able to also attach onto the problem, say, oh, well, this is what solving this puzzle or this problem is going to mean. Like, this is where we're trying to go. This is the outcome we're trying to get to. And it builds meaning into the work to be able to say, oh yeah, like we're having an HR issue this week, or, we need to hire X number of people for this next, 2-month stint. This is the most people we've ever had to hire. How are we going to do this? And it makes those challenges more fun, because what's on the other side of it. And it's not just, work that's pulling you down. Yeah. Well, so I guess as we wrap things up, John, is there anything else that we didn't hit today that you feel like you want to share with the audience, or, for the advisors who are listening, any pieces we didn't hit?
No, I think just to expand on that last piece, I mean, being able to be conscious and intentional about your actions and decisions and shifting your perspective, it's all wonderful, but it is really hard work. I equate it to physical exercise and going to a gym. I mean, if you don't go to a gym daily, weekly, you lose your muscle mass. The same thing is with your mental capacity. If you don't work on it by reading these various works literature, working with coaches, I mean, those, not that they're mandatory, but they definitely facilitate, like going to the gym for strength, they facilitate your ability to shift your mindset to an area that can unlock a significant amount of potential, both internally, which as a leader leads to external opportunity for your team. So it's something where, I mean, I definitely encourage folks to dream big, and then really work on the ways, more practically speaking, through things like EOS, through coaching, throughout these other works of literature, about the right ways to achieve them, because they are possible if you have the ability to shift your mindset in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say, like, another piece that I always think about, it's funny. I had a moment last night at the gym where I was going to do an exercise. It was a new exercise for me, and I was horrible at it. Like, I couldn't get the full range of motion. It was kind of embarrassing. And so I thought to myself, well, won't this be cool in 2 months, 3 months, when I can do this the right way? Like, I'm bad at this now, but I will be good at it if I keep doing it. And won't it be so satisfying in like 2 months when I can get that full range of motion on this move, or I can, the weights on this are going to go up. Like, this is really great. Like, this bottom moment that I'm having right now, I'm going to look back on this and be so proud, because I know I'll put in the work and I'll get there. And having more of that mindset with the business things, because for the advisors that I work with and just the stories, it's like you're spinning a lot of plates. There are a lot of fires. We're coming into 2025, which is going to be a crazy year, and we don't know what kind of crazy. So it's a lot, and it's challenging. It's one of the hardest things, but at the same time, like, I'm a big proponent of, I think entrepreneurship is one of the most unique opportunities for self-improvement out there. And that for you to go through the challenges that it takes to really grow and scale an organization, that's the outward piece that everybody sees, but it's really it comes from the inward transformation that you're having as an individual, and the more excellence that you're becoming as an individual. That's really where it's coming from. And, at the end of the day, that's the true thing. That's the valuable thing. All the external things, like you said, you can't take it with you. But the person that you become in the process of doing this in an organization with other people, supporting other people, mentoring other people, supporting yourself, getting mentorship for yourself, it goes into all the rest of the parts of your life too when this is done well. It's an exercise in virtue and human growth that I don't know that many other things really can mimic. So, but just wonderful thoughts from you, John, and I really appreciate you coming on the show today. For people who are interested, especially advisors who are interested in what you're building with Montis and the vision that you have, and getting to know kind of what you guys are building, and people you're looking to work with and partner with in terms of the growth plans that you have in the firm. We'll post the website link below, but what are the best ways to get in touch with you and get into your world?
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to go to the website, www.montisfinancial.com. You can reach out to me directly, Yanchek at montisfinancial.com. We love working with other REAs to build thought partnership networks. I mean, the great thing about our space is there's room for all of us to grow and succeed. And we love helping each other grow and succeed. So that's something, if anyone's open and interested, we'd love to have those conversations and help think through these dynamics, as we want to learn from you, you want to learn from us, and we can all collaborate and be better for it.
Yeah, I love it. So for everybody listening, go friend John on LinkedIn. That's how I got this conversation started, and you should say hello and see what they're up to and follow the growth. But thanks again for joining me on the show, John. And for those of you listening, we'll post the links nearby of how to get in touch and the website. And I'm always interested in getting your direct feedback on what you think about the episodes, and always interested to learn more about what's working in your practice. And if you have a similar story, or if you're interested in coming on the show and sharing your journey, we're doing more episodes focused specifically on advisor practices. So we'd welcome you to send me a DM and we can have a conversation and see about having you come on and share your story for other advisors to hear and be inspired by. So thanks again, John, for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time.
Awesome. Thanks, Catherine. Ton of fun.